I'm here with Charlotte Huang, the author of two amazing contemporaries, Going Geek and For the Record. And I first had the opportunity to meet Charlotte online when she posted a picture with my absolute favorite rock star, Brendan Urie, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to know who this is. And then it was, you were promoting For the Record at the time, and it was like a countdown to the days it was out, and you were like, look, and I was like, I have found the book I have to read next. So I was,
all thanks to Brendan.
Yes, thank you, Brendan, right? Like, oh, thank God for Brendan. That's true. Anyways, thank God for that man. So in any case, I'm really excited that you're here in the Bay Area to visit. I've been waiting for over a year now for you to come and visit, so I'm so thrilled that you're here. And let me see what else. So I want to ask today. Okay, so in addition to joining us today, can you tell us a little bit about both of your books?
Okay, I think I can. So For the Record came out first last year, and it was very much based on sort of my knowledge of the music business, which is kind of abnormally deep for somebody who doesn't work in the business. And it's because my husband is a music agent and has been working in that business for 20 years. Yeah, and we have a lot of friends who work in various aspects of music, like, you know, record labels or managers and things like that. And I just spent a lot of time around those people. So I sort of felt like I'm often the guest at dinner who's like saying nothing and just sitting there listening to them talk business and work stuff. And it was always really interesting to me, but it got to the point where I was like, if I don't do something with this, my brain is just rotting away. So I finally decided to put it all to use and write a book about a girl who joins a band, and she's sort of unwanted from the get-go. She's sort of forced into the band from the record label, which I think is a very realistic scenario. They can sort of sometimes dictate, like, this is a person we want to, you know, blow up, and so we're going to put her in this scenario. So it's about a girl who sort of has to struggle and prove herself and earn her place both with the band itself and with the band's fans, which is actually much harder. So that is what For the Record's about. And my favorite thing about it is in the appendix, there's an actual tour with actual venues that my husband routed.
I love that.
I always say to people, like, if you were in a band and you wanted to go on tour, you could follow my routing and it would actually work. So yeah, that book will always be sort of special to me. And then Going Geek was sort of more born of matching up sort of two of my favorite movies, which are Legally Blonde and Revenge of the Nerds, and just sort of mashing them together and coming up with this scenario where a girl who's really, she thinks she has it all together, but she's actually not very confident. She really underestimates herself, and she doesn't really believe that she has anything to offer. She sort of relies on the superficial stuff that she has, sort of her LA fabulous life, and doesn't really know what it is that she really brings to her relationships and her school environment. So it's about her sort of discovering that and digging deeper and finding out what she really has to offer.
I love that. I mean, together they're just so quintessential to the teen experience nowadays. So I think that's, you know, everything you see on American Idol and then everything you see with how teens kind of try and fit in. I love that. That's amazing. So as you talked about, you have a deep connection with the music industry, which obviously inspired For the Record. Can you talk a little bit more about your inspiration for Going Geek?
Going Geek, definitely. I think I went to a very high-pressured, well-known high school. It was a boarding school, but I was a day student. And I definitely felt like I was always surrounded by people who were further ahead than I was in terms of both their academic development and also just sort of they just seemed sort of preternaturally, is that the word I'm looking for, aware of who they were and or who they are. And I just always felt like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to figure it out. And I think I just had a lot of insecurity around being surrounded by these amazing people and really having to work much harder to figure out what it was that I wanted to do and what my talents were and my strengths were. So I think that was a lot of the emotional inspiration behind that book. And I just love, I mean, the school I went to is really beautiful. I just love the setting. I love all the traditions. I love the architecture. I love everything about it. So just incorporating that into that kind of storyline, I think, is my main inspiration.
So you talked a little bit about, you know, trying to figure out who you are. Did you always know you wanted to be a writer?
I did, but I definitely did not always have the courage to pursue it. So I think it's something that was sort of always hidden, and I never would have admitted it in high school. And I had classmates who were starting lit magazines, and they were getting awards for short stories, and, you know, some were writing full-length novels, I think. And I just sort of had it in the back of my head that, okay, if I ever get up the courage to try this, then, you know, I'll be really excited. But I just didn't know when that would be.
Well, I'm certainly excited that you've gotten there now.
It took me a while. You know, everything happens in its own time, I guess, and, you know, But I do kind of always say to teens, like, you just can't be afraid. You just have to try it. You know, there's nothing wrong with trying and failing. You at least try.
You always try. I love that. That's such great advice. People who are a little uncertain or reserved in trying new things. So that's really, really wonderful advice. So you debuted last year. You've now published your second book. What have you learned in the last year, and what's some advice you would give to those who are wanting to start out a writing career?
Oh, I have learned a lot. I will always miss sort of that sort of innocence and greenness about being a debut novelist. I really thought I had my head in the clouds, I think, being a debut. And I miss that sort of feeling of just everything's possible. I think what I've learned is that, it's work, and it's, I've spent a lot of this last year sort of figuring out how to market and promote books as opposed to actually writing them. And I think I've gotten sort of caught up in that more than I actually should. So I think one thing I've definitely learned is that, even when there's a lot of noise happening around and a lot of feeling of, expectations about what you should be doing, I think like settling back down to do the actual writing is the key.
It's work. Yeah. I think that's really, kind of one thing to really realize is that your passion actually becomes work. It's a job. It's a full-time job, I imagine. So indulge my groupie side. Tell us any kind of stories you might have involving rock stars.
I have.
You could not name names if you want.
Like what kind of stories? Like one of my favorite stories is I did a pre-show shot with a band one time. That was fun. That was probably the most like rock and roll type of thing I've done. But I don't know. I mean, I love stories that people don't expect. Like I always say about Pete from Fall Out Boy, he is a really polite person.
He is.
And when I was pregnant, he would bring me water. One time he was doing a signing. And, I was just standing to the side, and there was like this line of kids around the room, and he tried to make me sit in his seat.
That's adorable.
And I know, I was like, and I told his mom, I was like, you're Grace, a really nice person.
I love that you told his mom that.
Yeah,
that is so great.
Well, I love his mom, by the way.
Oh.
She and I went to the same college, so I feel like...
That's adorable.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so great. Who knew? Who knew? He's so great.
I know, he's a really wonderful person. What other fun stories do I have? I don't know. Okay, so recently I went to see 21 Pilots do the SNL thing, and
which was great.
Was
all your photos and stuff. I'm like,
so
I just love following your Instagram.
Well, I love the whole process of the show. Like, you don't realize how small the stage is, and like how intricate all the movements are. It was really fascinating. But I think after the camera stopped rolling and everybody's like on stage doing their bows and whatever, Josh just leaned over and hugged Tina Fey, and I was like, I couldn't stop talking about it all night. I was like, you got to hug Tina. So
right, like he's a star, but you're like, oh my gosh.
I'm like, who cares about you? You guys hug Tina. So and he agreed. He was like, that was pretty cool. So
that's so great. I love all these stories. Thank you for sharing. You're totally indulging my groupie side. All right, one last question. So what are you working on now, and what's kind of coming in the future for you?
I am working on middle grade, which is a pretty big shift in direction.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a couple of ideas. I sort of started one, and I'm sort of toying with how to make it more plot driven. So I feel like I had the characters down pretty well with that one, but I think I need to find a way to give it more of an engine. And then the other middle grade idea that I've also started is much more plot heavy, and I sort of envision it as a series. So I'm pretty excited about that one.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, it's a different direction for sure.
What made you want to write middle grade, or what kind of pushed you in that direction?
Well, I think I read a lot of middle grade because I have kids that are sort of into those books. And then, I think just one day I was doing, a small business Saturday. It was one of those like indie bookstore days, and I just kept selling a lot of middle grade because I can speak with authority about it because I do know what my kids are responding to, and I know what we like as a family. So I just sort of felt like, this is something I'm interested in, and I clearly like it, so I wanted to try it.
Great. Yeah. Well, that's really exciting. I can't wait to see what's up next for you.
It could be slow going, but
hey, it's a job, and you now know what kind of goes into it with your debut year, and so that's really cool. I can't wait to see what comes out for you. Well, for all of you out there, if you have not yet checked out For the Record and Going Geek, I highly, highly, highly recommend both. I read For the Record the day it came out. Literally the day it came out, I was on my honeymoon, and I was like, I'm reading this book today.
So I'm honored.
it was so great. So, and it really, as a person who goes to a lot of concerts, I could really envision it, which was wonderful. And
we have to talk more about your concert going and your favorite band moments and all that.
I could be here all day talking about that.